Welcome to the Good Place Marionville podcast, dedicated to highlighting the good right here in Marionville, Missouri.
And I tell you, we are going to have some fun today with someone who's pretty new to Marionville.
Pastor Brian Weygant is here to let us know about him and learn more about his family and what God has him doing at First Baptist Church in Marionville and how in the world he ended up here in Marionville. So, Brian, thanks for being with us. We're going to ask you some of those questions and then hit some news a little bit later on in the show, but maybe a quiz you along the way. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Awesome, Brian. So first of all, welcome to town.
Thanks.
We're so glad you're here. Tell us about your family, your wife and your kids. Give everybody the information they want to know.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, my name is Brian. And
We already said that part.
Well, he's acknowledged.
I do, but it's part of my routine. So I've been married to my wife, Megan, for, let's see here, goodness, about 22 years, coming up on 23 years. We actually met in Bolivar, Missouri.
Awesome.
We ended up getting married and we have 3 kids. Eden is our oldest. She's in college out in Nebraska. She's about to turn 20 years old, which is really, really hard for me to believe.
2 decades.
I'm telling you, decade was scary. 2 is even scarier.
Yes.
Emery is our middle child. She's about to turn 17, and Malachi is our son. He's about to turn 15.
Awesome.
Emery, a junior at Marionville High School?
She's a junior. She'll be a senior next year, and so we'll be down to 1 very soon.
Wow.
Make it sound like you're looking forward to that.
No.
Yeah, okay. All right, so where do you live in Marionville?
So actually, we're a little bit out there. We're towards Mount Vernon. We're actually I think I was told we're the last school in the Marionville School District, and so we're out there, actually towards the quarry up by 174.
Wow.
The last house before you get out of the district. Wow, aren't you lucky? Because we have incredible schools here in Marionville.
We really do. We're having a lot of fun.
And now you bought some land, you got some chickens, you got cows, you got goats, you got all that stuff?
We have chickens, but that's about it.
No cows and goats yet?
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right, okay.
Okay,
Soon.
so give us a little bit of history where you came from before Marionville.
So originally, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My wife is from Kansas City. Of course, we met in Bolivar. And we've kind of done ministry all over the place. We've been in Kansas City. We've been in Shelbina, Missouri, for those of you who may know where that is.
They're going to look it up right now in case they haven't.
It's good luck. We spent some time in Newport News, Virginia, and then most recently we were in Omaha, Nebraska for about 6 years, and finally God led us here.
All right, many people watching the podcast have not seen you or heard you preach yet. Okay. Because we've just now got the Facebook thing all kind of worked out on Sunday morning.
Actually, they're working on it right now. We're good to go.
Beautiful.
As we speak.
What would you like to tell them to expect if they visited First Baptist Church or watched you preach online?
Well, First Baptist Church, listen, and I'm sure this is probably getting ahead of myself, but First Baptist Church is just an amazing church, just loving, incredible people. It's one of the reasons why we picked this church in this town. Just a loving community. What to expect out of me? Honestly, it's just a lot of energy, and I have some people who like it, some people who don't, and that's okay. I move around a lot. The good news is it's hard to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But I try to keep everybody awake at least.
I love that because, I was thinking about you don't ever sit and preach. And so having you even sit here for a conversation
He's twitching.
Is not the same as what you would
You can't see it, but he's twitching. He is.
But I love that.
But so, I mean, it's so much more though. You're preaching, it's energetic, but it's deep. You're digging in to the places of the scripture a lot of people haven't heard you dig in. You've got a very unique preaching style. You memorize the entire sermon before you preach on Sundays.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I do, one of my favorite things about the Bible is the cultural history and understanding just the world of just the biblical world. Because honestly, when we begin to understand the biblical world, that's when the whole thing begins to make sense. Everything begins to fit together perfectly. I have a very hard time just not moving around. I love memorizing. And part of that is actually because I've actually got a horrible stage. Let me try that again. Horrible case, there we go, of stage fright. Whenever you put me outside of my comfort zone on stage in front of people, I shake like crazy. Most people never believe it. Until you put me in that situation, then you see it. And so memorization is honestly one of the ways I get over that. It's just taking the time and really focusing on what God has to say and just kind of letting him take over.
I know that for us, some of the things that is kind of set apart is the fact that you do, in that cultural context that you were talking about, often give us something that we take away that we're like, we never knew that before. We never, heard that perspective before. And it's factual and truthful, but it just is taking it a little bit deeper. Coming into a new setting with new people in a new environment where you are the leader, ultimately, can be pretty tough. So tell us about how your approach has been as a new pastor.
So one of the things you got to understand about being a pastor and coming into a new church is that every single church is different. It's just like people. Everybody is different. And so part of what I'm doing in my first year is just understanding the church. It's getting to know the church, because we can't really move forward until I understand the people and the heart and the community itself, because, we can't really reach the community unless I know the community. I've been in situations, early in ministry, I came into some positions and I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I got there and realized X, Y, and Z was not going to work at all. And I had to completely rethink the whole thing. And so a lot of it is really understanding. Listen, it's all about people. It's about understanding people. It's about understanding what people need. And you got to begin with that. And once you understand that, then you can craft a plan to be able to move forward and to be able to do what God's calling us to do.
So since you came to First Baptist Church in Marionville, attendance is increasing, especially with kids on Wednesday nights. You guys are doing incredible stuff. What's happening with the kids ministries? And is there anything coming up this spring that's kind of fun you want to tell people about?
So the thing with kids ministry, and this is one of the things you'll probably hear me say from time to time, is I believe that discipleship begins with kids ministry. Again, this goes back to the culture that in that first century world, discipleship for them began at about 5 years old. And so we as a church and as churches need to take kids ministry very, very seriously. And one of the big reasons that this is so important is because, and science backs this up, that by the age of 16 years old, by and large, most of our habits and our behaviors are set in stone. The only thing that'll really change that is a traumatic life experience. And so it's important for us as churches to really maximize that time that we have in kids ministry, that it's not about just kind of having a place to put kids in the back, but it's about making them a priority in how to invest in their life. Regarding this spring, I'm
like your sermon series right now.
Yes.
What's the title?
Oh, that's where you're going. Okay. So, we're wrapping it up this week. So we're wrapping up a series called What's the Big Deal with Church? And really, that's just kind of the whole idea. Why is church important? Why is it that as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we're supposed to be a part of a church? That it's not just about doing it for the sake of doing things, because again, God's way too intentional for that. That God has our best interests at heart, and so there's a reason why. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's kind of getting into it and understanding the nuts and the bolts of why it's important that we're actually connected to a church community and not just kind of worshiping God only online or only out in nature or, driving in the car.
Which is exactly what you talked about this last week. And I just want to know how many people in our church went to Brahms this week after your
I've
been thinking about it all week. I'm not a Dairy Queen guy, but I love Brahms.
So if
extra,
you want to
super duper large
about, you'll have to go
Facebook.
back to the Facebook and watch the video from this Sunday's sermon. But Brian kind of teased us all with an analogy that included, our desire to go to Brahms.
I had so many people tell me they were going to Brahms.
I am sure you did. Okay, with no sponsorship application
Not
there.
that I'm aware of.
Another free plug right here on the Good Place Marionville podcast.
So, Brian, give us a fun fact. Thank you for sharing about your role as pastor and getting to know you. Give us just a fun fact about you personally. I happen to know a little bit, but maybe there's something that you're like, this might be interesting, or something nobody knows yet.
Well, one of the things that people don't know about me is that back in high school, I played hockey. I was a goalie. I was actually a goalie for a school I did not attend because back then they had a draft.
Oh.
And since I was a goalie, it was kind of a rare position, and we actually won state my senior year.
Was you in the goal?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
with you and the goalies.
You're kind of skinny. I mean, usually
I-
goalies have some bulk. I mean,
Well, you know,
We
thankfully
wore all the padding.
thankfully the pads are big, and that takes up a lot of room.
pads are big.
Yes.
Well, how
All
are
right,
your
so
knees then? Because that goalie, man, that's hard on your knees.
You know what's funny? They killed me through high school, but now they're fine.
Oh, well, that's good.
Until the weather changes like today.
Yeah, that's
there
right.
you go. All right. So I'm curious, have you started thinking about planting your garden yet?
Oh, they're already started.
They are started. Okay.
I've got a shelf full of little seedlings starting to grow right now.
Awesome. So I know when you guys moved here last year, it was too late to get anything in the ground, and you had to leave a lot of garden behind.
We did,
So
yeah.
I knew that would be so. I'm thinking about it. I have not yet put anything out there yet because last year I started too soon, and then I had to do it again, and it was So I'm trying to be patient. Okay, so I know that you've been getting involved around town, getting to know people, attending the Marionville Ministerial Alliance. I know I saw your face at the Christmas parade, helping out, serving. What else have you been doing in town to get to know people?
Honestly, it's just trying to get take the opportunities that we have, and a lot of it has to do with some of the things that are happening, through the Ministerial Alliance, also through the church. We had the backpack drive right before
Yes.
school. We got VBS coming up, and that's always a big time. I still have kids coming up talking to me about VBS from last year. Of course, a large part of that was getting covered with all kinds of gross things is a part of a challenge at the end. And I'm pretty sure some of those kids will define me by that for the rest of my life.
Probably. That's awesome.
Things you do in youth ministry do tend to follow you. I did a skit in 1988, and the kids that witnessed that skit, who are now in their late 40s.
They're still scarred by it,
They're
aren't
still
they, Jim?
scarred by that skit. That's right.
Oh,
All right, now for some other good news around town. And don't worry, we're not going to leave Brian just sitting here. We got other things to involve him, but we got some good news around town. Martha?
Yes, this one is hot off of the press. Last night, the Lady Comets won their basketball game against Miller, and they became the sectional champions. So congratulations to the Comets. Saturday, they will compete in the Class 2 quarterfinal game. So, Brian, what's your favorite sport?
Well, I like I said, I'm a big hockey guy. I'm also a baseball guy because I'm from St. Louis, and it's kind of a requirement out there.
Got it. Have you been to any Comet games?
We were to a couple of football games. We haven't been to a basketball game yet, but we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. And then Jamie Bella sent some good news last week. This is something really cool that happened at the high school, and I love the concept and wanted to make sure to share it with all of you. They had a prom pop-up event with the apparel program, and I'm going to put their Facebook link in the show notes because they are a nonprofit organization out of Monette, and the event allowed students to borrow prom dresses, jewelry, shoes, tuxes, all for free. And I just thought this was such a great way to help students be able to participate in fun things like the prom in an economical way. And
here's two words you never heard put together: economical and prom. That's right.
So, and here's what I want everyone listening to hear is that you can donate items to the apparel program. So if you have fancy dresses, tuxes, jewelry, or shoes that you are no longer using and you're like, I wish there's something I could do with them, the apparel program is a place where you can make those donations to help it happen. So, prom is one of those things that there's a lot that goes into it, and this is one way to make it a little bit more affordable. So, Brian, prom things happening at your house?
Oh, they're happening.
Okay.
They're happening. We're getting ready for it.
Awesome.
I missed the drama. I just missed the drama. All right, along those same lines
Fun
today.
fact, Jim never took me to prom.
Oh, boy.
So, I'm sorry. Go on.
You just mentioned that live on the air.
I did. That's okay. You're between us, Brian.
But I took Martha to the prom alternative at our church.
You did.
And that's when I sealed the deal on May 11th, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Along those same lines, today, March 5th, the Care to Learn Comet Closet is open. This is free for every Marionville student where they can shop for clothing, hygiene items, and food pantry items. It's open the first Wednesday of every month from 3:30 to 6. Contact any Marionville counselor for more details.
All right. And Greta said that the Marionville Special Services Department is in the final stages of planning the transition night, which is happening on March 11th, 2025. It's a night to help students with the what's next after high school.
Yeah, Martha and I'll be there representing the local fire department.
Yes.
Local sponsors for the night include the Bank of Billings, Sonic, the Learning Spot, and Alice Irene's Restaurant. If you'd like to get involved, reach out to Greta by phone, and that'll be in the show notes, 417-258-2387.
or her email. And I'm going to put that in there. So Matt Price reported some good news too. This is amazing. 80% of Marionville's fifth grade students scored proficient or advanced on the February evaluate tests. So way to go, fifth grade.
That's right. Mark your calendars for the general elections coming up on April the 8th. Each ward in Marionville has an alderman running for re-election. Brian, are you registered and all set to register right here and vote in Marionville?
We are registered. We're good to go.
Good deal. All right. We're so blessed to have a local community bank like the Bank of Billings right here in Marionville.
They are huge supporters of our schools and the youth programs. As we heard earlier in the show, they're helping to sponsor the transition night on March 11th at the high school. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
We are grateful to the Bank of Billings for all their community support and for sponsoring the Good Place Marionville podcast. All right. Now, we've mentioned this many times in the past few weeks, but until March the 14th, uniformed first responders can receive 50% off their meal at the Mulberry Tree Saloon. That will be also known as the Zombie Bar. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, lunch and dinner, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Brian, have you ever wanted to be a firefighter?
I mean, who hasn't?
Well, I'm glad you said that because, you know, there's openings for volunteers in the Marionville Fire Department.
Nice.
And you can volunteer during the day, you can volunteer at night. And because you live out of town at night, during the day, it'd be great for you to become part of the Marionville Fire Department. And if there's an emergency during the day, that's when we're the most shorthanded. You could be part of the fire department.
No pressure right here.
Right
here
No
on the
pressure.
air.
Put me on the spot.
And would you be willing to stop at City Hall on your way out of town and get an application? Because that's what we need to do.
Oh, that's great.
Got it.
All right. You know, and Jim, I was thinking it's about time for you to get another burger at the Mulberry Tree Saloon. So as a first responder, what a great opportunity.
Yeah, their burgers. Pretty good.
Yes.
Breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
That's right.
The Good Place Marionville podcast's newest sponsor is Todd Wright with Alpha Realty. And I will put links to his website and his Facebook in the show notes. And we are just so grateful for him for sponsoring this podcast.
Todd has a passion for all forms of real estate, commercial, agricultural, residential. Thanks, Todd, for your work right here in Marionville and for supporting this podcast.
All right. Due to the weather, this report is a little bit late, but worth mentioning. So on February 22nd, over 30 people representing 5 different churches attended the Marionville Hope Clinic to learn how to effectively reach out to our community in relationships. Guest speakers from Rural Compassion and Bridging Hunger and other local organizations were on hand to bring in their expertise.
A huge thank you to Marshall Bruner and Hope Together for sponsoring this event hosted by the Marionville Ministerial Alliance. Many people were challenged to build community relationships and reach out to people in need. Brian, you're part of the Marionville Ministerial Alliance. Isn't it a refreshing change for you to be in a community where the pastors work together?
Let me tell you something, man. We have such a great group of pastors here because I've spent a little bit of time with these guys. Again, I've only been here for about a year. But these guys just have a great, great heart. They love this community. It's just wonderful to work with them.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the Marionville Ministerial Alliance invites all local pastors to work together in their monthly meetings and through events to serve the community for Christ. And their monthly meetings are the second Thursday of every month at Alice Irene's at 9 a.m. for a couple of hours. And you get to have breakfast at the same time.
Well, you can never go wrong with that. You know, so I would just going to put a plug out there for anybody listening who doesn't think that their pastor may be involved in that, to encourage them to be involved in the Ministerial Alliance, because it really is a big part of the heartbeat of this community. So Brian Weygant, I said it right.
You said it right.
He never says his last name, so we were given a hard time about saying it properly. As senior pastor of Marionville First Baptist Church, thank you for being our guest today and for allowing the community to get to know you a little bit. Is there any last words that you would want? Well, not last words. Right? It's not your last words. But is there anything else?
You're never getting out of here.
You to the
Last
listeners
words.
before we're done.
No, just that I've loved my time here so far. Marionville is just a wonderful, wonderful town. I love First Baptist Church, and I just can't wait to get to know everybody better and to see what God does in and through not just our church, but in and through all the churches here in town. Because again, we've got a wonderful group of pastors here, and I just can't wait to see what God does in the big picture. And so I'm excited.
That's right. Awesome. A very special thank you to Todd Wright of Alpha Realty and the Bank of Billings for showing their support for the good happening here.
Consider joining them and becoming a sponsor for 2025. You can contact us at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com.
And good news is easy to report. Just send an email to goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified when each new episode releases.
Thank you for joining us for the Good Place Marionville podcast. Keep your eyes out for the good, and together we can celebrate Marionville.